right. So today we're diving into something that I think is going to hit home for pretty much everyone listening.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is something that, we've all been thinking about a lot lately, and it seems like it's kind of unavoidable at this point.
Exactly. And to just throw a number out there right off the bat, uh, 2,617 touches.
Wow.
That's the average number of times that someone interacts with their phone every single day.
Every single day. That's pretty mind-boggling when you think about it.
And when you add up all that time that we're spending on these devices globally, we're looking at about 7 hours a day.
7 hours just glued to our phone.
Yeah, and I think it's worth taking a pause right now for everyone listening just to think about their own habits. Where do you think you fall on that spectrum?
Yeah.
7 hours a day on your phone.
And it's interesting, too, because these global averages, they really differ across the world.
Yeah.
Like you look at the U.S., for instance, people are spending something like 7 to 8 hours a day on their phones.
Wow.
India's not far behind at about 7.5 hours. Even in Bangladesh, the average is around 6.5 hours.
It's everywhere.
It really is. Canada's pretty similar to the U.S., 6 to 7 hours. Pakistan's over 7. And then South Korea takes the cake at, whopping 8 hours a day.
8 hours a day? That's like a full work day.
It is. It's incredible.
Get dedicated to our phones.
Yeah. And what are we doing during all that time, right? We're scrolling through Instagram and TikTok. We're falling down YouTube rabbit holes, binge watching Netflix, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that begs the question, what is all this time actually costing us? Because it is a significant portion of our lives.
It really is. And I think it's important to think about it in terms of opportunity costs, right? What are we not doing with those 7 hours? Are we neglecting our studies, our work, our personal goals, our hobbies, all the things that we really value in life?
Exactly. And I think for many of us, the thought of being without our phone for even an hour can be kind of anxiety-inducing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how many times have you seen someone, frantically searching for their phone like they've lost a limb?
Right? It's like we've become so attached to these devices, and you can't help but see the parallels with addiction.
And the science actually backs that up. The way we engage with social media, it triggers similar neurological pathways as addictions to drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, gambling.
Really?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
That craving for the next notification, that urge to constantly check our phones, it's like a digital drug.
But we get a hit of dopamine every time we see a like or a comment.
Exactly. And that's kind of the crux of it. Social media is designed to tap into our brain's reward system.
So it's not just our behavior, it's actually changing our brains.
In a way, yes, it creates this cycle. You unlock your phone, you scroll through your feed, you get a little burst of dopamine from a funny video or a like, and that makes you want to reap the action.
It's like a feedback loop.
Exactly. And before you know it, you've lost hours of your day.
And it's not just you and me who feel this way. I mean, millions of people around the world are struggling with this same issue.
Oh, absolutely. It's a global phenomenon, and it's affecting people from all walks of life, even celebrities and successful entrepreneurs.
Right. I mean, even Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man, has talked about how social media was negatively impacting his mental health.
He actually deleted all the social media apps from his phone because it was getting so overwhelming for him.
So if we know that social media can be so detrimental to our well-being, why do we keep going back?
Well, one of the main culprits is something called the comparison trap.
The comparison trap.
Yeah, it's basically this tendency we have to compare our own lives to the carefully curated versions of reality that we see on social media.
You mean like those picture-perfect vacations and those seemingly flawless relationships?
Exactly. And it's important to remember that social media is a highlight reel.
It's not real life.
Right. People are only showing their best moments, the carefully edited photos, the perfectly crafted captions.
So we're constantly comparing ourselves to an unrealistic standard.
And that can lead to feelings of inadequacy and insecurity, like we're not good enough or our lives aren't interesting enough.
It's like we're constantly being shown the finish line without seeing the race.
Exactly. And that's where the dopamine hit comes back into play.
Right, because we're getting those little bursts of pleasure every time we scroll through our feed.
Yeah, and it's that unpredictability that makes it so addictive, like a slot machine. You never know what you're going to get, but keep pulling the lever, hoping for a win.
So how do good habits even stand a chance against that kind of instant gratification?
Well, that's the tricky part, because good habits often require delayed gratification.
Like studying for an exam or exercising regularly.
Exactly. You don't see the results immediately, so it's harder for our brains to stay motivated.
It's like our brains are wired for instant pleasure, not long-term rewards.
And social media companies know this. They've designed their platforms to exploit our natural tendencies.
So it's not just a lack of willpower on our part. It's actually a deliberate strategy by these companies.
Absolutely. They have teams of engineers, psychologists, and data scientists working to make their platforms as addictive as possible.
It's like they've created a system that's designed to keep us hooked.
And unfortunately, we're the ones who pay the price with our time, our attention, and ultimately our well-being.
So how do we break free from this trap? What's the first step?
The first step is awareness. We need to recognize that social media is a carefully engineered system that's designed to keep us engaged for as long as possible.
So it's not just mindless entertainment, it's a business.
Exactly. And once we understand that, we can start to make more conscious choices about how we use these platforms.
So what's the next step in our escape plan?
Turn off notifications.
Notifications.
Yeah, those little alerts that pop up on our phones every few minutes, they're a major distraction, and they fragment our attention.
You mean like every time someone likes our post or comments on our photo?
Exactly. And studies have shown that it can take up to 23 minutes to regain our focus after an interruption.
Wow, 23 minutes. That's a lot of time
Yeah.
wasted.
It is. And when you think about how many notifications we get throughout the day, it adds up to a significant loss of productivity.
So turning off notifications is a simple but powerful way to reclaim our attention.
Absolutely. And it gives us more control over when and how we engage with social media.
Okay, what else can we do?
Well, there's this really helpful technique called the 5-second rule.
The 5-second rule.
Yeah, it's basically a way to interrupt our automatic habits around checking our phones.
So like when we feel that urge to just mindlessly scroll,
Exactly. Instead of giving in to that urge, we consciously count down from 5 to 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right. And after we reach 1, we ask ourselves, do I really need to open this app right now?
It's like giving ourselves a moment to pause and reflect.
And often we'll realize that it was just a habitual impulse and we can choose to do something else instead.
That's a great tip. All right, what's next?
Setting time limits.
Time limits.
Yeah, we need to be more intentional about how much time we're spending on social media.
Because it's so easy to lose track of time when we're scrolling.
Exactly. And if we think about those average usage statistics, 7 hours a day, that adds up to a staggering 87 days a year.
87 days, that's like a whole season of our lives.
So by setting clear daily limits and sticking to them, we can reclaim a significant chunk of our time.
And what do we do with all that extra time?
Well, that's where step 5 comes in, replacing social media with real-life activities.
Like what?
Like going outside, reading books, learning new skills, having meaningful conversations with friends and family, exercising.
It's about filling our lives with things that truly nourish us.
Exactly. And the more we engage in real life, the less appealing social media becomes.
Okay, so we've turned off notifications, we're setting time limits, and we're replacing social media with real-life activities. What else can we do to make our phones less addictive?
Well, there are a few simple tweaks we can make to our phones themselves.
Like what?
One is to switch our screen display to grayscale.
Grayscale?
Yeah, black and white. It makes our phones less visually stimulating and less appealing to look at.
Interesting. What else?
We can also move our social media apps to a less accessible location on our phones, like a folder on a secondary screen.
So we have to make a little bit more effort to open them.
Exactly. And that can help to break the habit of mindlessly checking them.
And finally,
Log out of our social media accounts after each use.
so we have to consciously log back in every time.
Right. And that can be enough to deter us from checking them too frequently.
Those are some great practical tips. And you know what else we could try?
What's that?
A 7-day social media detox.
Ah, yes, the ultimate reset.
What are the benefits of taking a break like that?
Well, for one, it allows us to experience firsthand what life is like without social media.
So we can see how much it's actually affecting us.
Exactly. And many people report feeling happier, calmer, and more focused after a detox.
It's like giving our minds a chance to rest and recharge.
And it gives us a chance to reassess our relationship with social media and make more conscious choices about how we use it going forward.
So let's talk about the bigger picture here. What's the real opportunity cost of all this time we're spending on social media?
Well, time is our most valuable resource. And every minute we spend scrolling through social media is a minute we're not spending on something else.
Like pursuing our goals or building meaningful relationships.
Exactly. And over time, those choices add up. They can lead to very different outcomes in life.
So it's really about being intentional with our time.
Absolutely. We need to be mindful of how we're spending this precious resource because we can't get it back.
So what's one actionable step our listeners can take right now to start getting a handle on their social media usage?
I'd recommend checking the screen time statistics on your phone.
Screen time statistics.
Yeah, it'll tell you exactly how much time you're spending on social media each day.
And that can be a real eye-opener.
It can, and it can help us to become more aware of our habits and start making changes.
So what about those of us who feel stuck in a rut? How does excessive social media use contribute to that feeling?
Well, when we're spending so much time passively consuming content, we're not actively working towards our goals.
It's like we're watching everyone else's lives unfold while ours stays on hold.
Exactly. And that can lead to feelings of stagnation and dissatisfaction.
Oh, it's not just about the time we're wasting, it's about the opportunities we're missing.
Right, and the progress we're not making.
Okay, so let's try a little thought experiment here.
Yeah.
Close your eyes for a moment if you can, and imagine what life would be like with a healthier relationship with social media.
Imagine waking up without immediately reaching for your phone. Imagine feeling motivated and focused throughout the day. Imagine having more time for the things you love. Imagine feeling more present and connected to the world around you.
It sounds pretty amazing.
It is, and it's within reach for all of us if we make a conscious effort to change our habits.
So ultimately, it comes down to a choice.
It does. We can continue down the path of passive consumption, or we can choose to take control of our time and our lives.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a few questions to ponder. Imagine looking back on your life. Will you be proud of how you spent your time? Did you chase your dreams, or did you just watch others chase theirs? Did you make the most of every moment, or did you let social media steal them from you? The time to change is now, not tomorrow. What's one small step you can take today to break free from this cycle and start living a more intentional life? Share that commitment with yourself or even with someone else. Hold yourself accountable. And remember, time is precious. Don't let it slip away.
It's your life. Make it count.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Bye.